I want you to do something before this video starts properly. I want you to think about the last time you told yourself you would do something later. Not a year ago, but recently, this week, maybe even today. And I want you to ask yourself one question. A question I'm going to come back to at the end of this video because I think it is the most honest thing I can ask you. Can you define later? Not the feeling of later, not the intention behind later, the actual definition. When is it? What does it look like? What will be different about you when later finally arrives? Because I spent years living inside that word. Later I will start. Later I will make the sacrifices. Later I will do the work. Later when I'm ready. And what I eventually had to admit to myself, and this is the uncomfortable part, is that I was not lazy. I was lying. And the lie had a very specific shape. And once I saw it, I could not unsee it. This is what this video is about. Let me describe your evenings, not as an attack, but as a mirror. You sit down, you tell yourself you deserve this, you have worked all day, the couch is right there, the show is already cute, and the plan, the thing you said you are going to do, the thing that actually matters, that gets quietly moved to later. Just tonight, just this once, tomorrow you will be more ready. And here is the part nobody talks about. You are not even enjoying it. You are watching television, and somewhere underneath it there is a voice, a quiet one, and it is asking you what you are doing. And you know the answer, and you keep watching anyway. Not because you are happy, not because you chose this, but because the alternative, actually starting, feels heavier than the guilt of not starting. So you stay, half present, half guilty, getting neither the rest you told yourself you needed nor the progress you told yourself you wanted. And then you go to sleep. And tomorrow, the same story runs. And the week passes, and the month, and at some point you stop noticing the voice because you have gotten very good at turning down the volume. I know this because I lived it. Evenings, watching shows I didn't care about so I could discuss them with colleagues the next day. Going out for dinner not because I wanted to, but because this is what the evening was for. Choosing comfort so automatically, I had stopped recognizing it as a choice. And through all of it, I had the word for what I was doing. Later. Later, I will start. Later, I will be ready. Later, the timing will be better. Later, I will feel like it. Here is what nobody told me. Later is not a time. Later is a lie. And it has a very specific shape. And if you can see that shape, you can escape it. Psychologists have studied procrastination for decades, and the conclusion that keeps appearing is this: procrastination is not a time management problem, it is an emotion management problem. You are not avoiding the task, you are avoiding the task that produces the uncertainty, the possibility of failure, the exposure of trying something and finding out that you are not as capable as you hoped, the gap where you are and where you want to be made suddenly uncomfortably real. And the brain, your brain, my brain, every brain is extremely good at finding reasons why now is not the right time, why later is more logical, why waiting until you feel ready is the responsible choice. There is the ready feeling. This is the mechanism. This is how the lie works. Because ready is not a feeling that arrives. Ready is a story you tell yourself about a future version of you that has somehow solved the problems the current version of you is avoiding. Future is calmer, more organized, less tired, has better circumstances, has figured out the thing that current you cannot figure out. Future is a fiction, A later is the address where that fiction lives. There is a research from Timothy Pitchell at Carleton University who has spent his career studying why people procrastinate. His finding is not that procrastinators are lazy or lack discipline. His finding is that they prioritize short term mood repair over long term goal progress. In the moment, not starting feels better than starting. So, not starting wins every time until you change what the moment costs you. I want to tell you about a realization I had, not a motivational one, an honest one. I have started YouTube channels before, more than once, and I knew, genuinely knew, not in the high side, but in the moment that the strategy I was using was not going to hold. I chose it anyway because it was easier, because the real work felt like too much for right now, because later I would do it properly. The channel made money and then it collapsed. And when it collapsed, I told people I was surprised. But I was not surprised. I was embarrassed because deep down I had known the whole time. That is what the later trap actually costs you. Not just time, the self respect, the quiet knowledge that you made a choice you cannot fully defend and you are living without the result of it. Here is the reframe: you are not lazy. Lazy implies you do not care, but you care. That is why the guilt is there. That is why the voice shows up in the middle of the television show you are not enjoying. Lazy people do not feel guilty. You feel guilty because you know the gap between what you are doing and what you are capable of. The problem is not laziness. The problem is that you have been waiting to feel ready before you act. And ready never comes. Because ready is not a prerequisite for starting. Ready is the result of starting. You do not get ready and then begin. You begin and then, somewhere in the middle of doing, you realize you were ready the whole time. The later trap is not about time, it's about a misunderstanding of how readiness works. And once you understand that, once you see that the waiting is the problem and not the solution, later stops making sense as an answer. Three things that actually work, not theories, things I have tested on myself. The first one, define later out loud. This is the question I open with. Can you define later? I want you to actually do it. Get specific. Write it down or say it out loud. When exactly is later? What date? What will be the different about your circumstances? What will be different about you? Because later survives on vagueness. And the moment you try to define it precisely, it starts to collapse. You will find that later has no real address. It is always just ahead of wherever you are. It moves when you move. It stays undefined because the moment it becomes defined, it becomes now. And now is the thing you are avoiding. Define later and watch how quickly it disappears. The second one is make your word mean something to you. This one changed everything for me. Today I had a bad day. I had a headache. I didn't want to train. I trained anyway. Not because I felt like it, because I had told myself I would. And I have made a decision, not recently, but gradually, over time, that what I say I will do, and what I actually do have to be the same thing. Not for anyone else, for me. Because every time you break your word to yourself, you are teaching yourself that your word means nothing. And once you learn that lesson, it applies everywhere, to the channel, to your health, to your finances, to everything. Start small, say you will do one thing tomorrow, one specific thing, and do it. Not because it matters enormously on its own, because the pattern of keep your word to yourself is the foundation everything else is built on. And the third one is change what you consume, change what you change what you consume before you try to change what you do. I spent years watching content that gave me nothing. Shows I discussed with colleagues the next day, slop that filled the evening without building anything. And at some point I made a shift, not dramatic, it was also gradual, toward content that actually taught me something. Longer videos, real information, people who are doing the thing I said I want to do. And something changed. Not immediately, but the input started producing different thoughts, different questions, and a different relationship with my own time. You cannot keep feeding your brain comfort and expect it to produce courage. The consumption shapes the thinking. Change the consumption, and the thinking starts to follow. I want to be honest with you about what this actually costs. Closing the later gap is not a one time decision, it is a daily one. And some days, most days in the beginning, now still feels harder than later. The couch is still there, the guilt is still manageable, the voice is still easy to turn down. What changes is not that it gets easy. What changes is that you get tired of the alternative. You get tired of watching shows you don't even enjoy while the thing you actually want sits untouched. You get tired of the version of yourself that had everything he needed and kept waiting for a better moment. That version of you is not lazy, but he is lying, and you already know it. The cost of stopping the lie is discomfort, real, daily, unromantic discomfort. The cost of continuing is the life you are currently living instead of the one you said you wanted. Both have a cost. Choose which one you are willing to pay. There is a mindset I carried for most of my adult life without naming it. The 9 to 5 mindset. Not just as a description of my job, as a description of how I lived. Weekdays were for work, weekends were for leisure, evening was for rest, and that structure, that division made complete sense to me. I was what everyone around me was doing. It felt normal because it was normal. And then at some point I looked at life I was building inside that structure and realized that you cannot build an exceptional life on a normal schedule. Not because working more hours is the answer, because the 9 to 5 mindset treats your own future as something that happens during business hours and then gets to rest. The later trap is the 9 to 5 mindset applied to your own ambitions. Work on it later, during the right hours, when the conditions are better, when you are more ready. The people who escape later are not more talented. They are not more disciplined by nature. They made one decision that the hours they were giving to comfort were actually hours they were stealing from themselves. You are not lazy. You are someone who has yet decided that now is the only real option. That decision is available to you today. I asked you at the start of the video to hold a question. Can you define later? I want you to actually answer it right now, after this video ends, not in your head, on paper or out loud. When is later? What will be different? What are you waiting to feel before you begin? Write the answer down and then look at it. Because I think when you see it written down, you will recognize what I recognized. The later does not exist. It never did. There is only now and the story you tell yourself about why now is not enough. Now is enough. You are enough. The later version of you that finally starts, that is just you deciding today. If this landed for you, please subscribe because I'm documenting it all. The work, the failures, the work, the failures, the real numbers, the gap between where I am and where I'm going. No shortcuts, no performance, just boring work done consistently. I will see you on the next one.